Hello, beautiful ones. Sending you all the blessings from the eclipse portal. It's actually just happened as I sit down to film this video. And yeah, this is a Galactic Mind Wavespell report with me, who used to be Jyoti, that prior to that was Rebecca, and now is Rebecca again. And yeah, this report is for the 14th of August 2026. So yeah, I'm just like sat outside in my garden. Obviously there's a lot of hype in, you know, for this particular eclipse outside of the astrological community, because it's super visible in the sky. So there was all these invitations of like, do you want to go and see it? Do you want to? And when I really felt in, and I think just with where I've been at in summer, it's like, no, I just want to be internal. And yeah, like I live in the woods, and it's just been, it was really amazing to kind of just be like with the animals and with the trees. And like as everything went dark, all the animals went silent, and I think there's just that real sense of like the ancient, and you know, this new galactic year that we moved into on the 26th of July, which is about red moon, which is the archetype of the red moon, the red galactic moon. I really feel that the red signs, all of them, really connect us to that ancient awareness. So we're kind of in this year energy of the ancient feminine. That's what the red moon is about. That really like fluid way of being that is in harmony with. So on the 14th, we move into the final of the 13-day processes for the Tzolk'in. So alongside this 13-moon yearly adventure that begins and ends on the 26th of July, we also have this 9-month, 260-day Tzolk'in spin. Here is last year's diary, just a little nudge to get this year's diary. It's out because I've been journaling. So this is, you know, if you want to start the new spin intentionally in alignment with these energies, get your copy. You know, the window's getting smaller, so you need to order within the next few days if you want it to arrive on time. Shipping all over the world. I'll pop the links below. And inside, you know, is a space for you. It's a space for you to explore your human experience, and that is what this whole game is about. I'm reading a really cool book at the minute, which is all about, it's like a guy who's researching DMT and like the cosmic game. I can't remember the exact name of the book or the name of the guy, but it's fascinating. It's so powerful. And essentially he's like drawing conclusions that really feel in alignment with the Dreamspell for me, and how, you know, this reality, because the thing is with DMT and people that have had DMT experiences, there's these similarities when people take really high doses of what they experience, and you know, the kind of realm of DMT. And basically there's this whole thing that like he's really in support of, that Terence McKenna talked about, that was like, you know, we're essentially trapped in a massive game of art. It's art. So yeah, I'm buzzing off that. But yeah, 14th, we move into the final of the 13-day cycles of our human gestation cycle. And the archetype that carries us through that 13 days is the archetype of the yellow star. So this energy of like human evolution, which is what the Tzolk'in, what the Dreamspell is all about, you know, I think as I was speaking into this idea of like this ancient awareness, I think there really was like a lot more acknowledgement of evolution and connection to nature. Even though maybe the concept of evolution was slightly different, there was this recognition of like this growing process from birth to death, and a lot of belief in reincarnation. And you know, kind of regardless of whether you believe that the individual continues, we know scientifically that energetically, energy doesn't disappear, it just gets reformed into something else. So us consciously journeying what it is to be a human now in an evolutionary game that is a work of art, that's what the Dreamspell is all about. So then when we're reaching the final 13 days before the snake eats its tail and we start again, we're in that like twilight energy, we're in that like reflection time. So the biggest invitation of the 13 days that are approaching is to be looking back at what was happening on the 10th of December onwards. So the 10th of December last year was when this cycle began. So we had this like really potent initiation into all that was to come. So last Christmas was a really significant time. Where were you last Christmas? What was happening? You know, and obviously we have the like usual stresses of that time of year, but what were the specific themes? Like, what was going on for you? Where were you? How did you spend your time? But also what was coming up. This was like the theme of your whole 9-month cycle being revealed. So really giving ourselves a moment to acknowledge all that has moved in our being and in our afterlife since then. And then we have the energy of the yellow star. So this particular archetype is all about being seen, is all about being our unique, weird and wonderful selves. And it's not that easy to do that. You know, I think sometimes the majority of people have kind of gone through this weird schooling system that is a total conditioning, like mind, body, spirit, into, you know, what it means to be a human, how to be a human, you know, and there's a really heavy emphasis on, there's like 10 different molds that you can fit. But even just like the way that you think about things, the way that you relate to each other, that the whole package of like, this is what it means to be a human, the foundations are kind of set in that time. And we know through, you know, the field of childhood development, what happens in childhood sets the stage for what happens throughout life. So throughout life then, if we choose, if we want to, we have to go through this period of like deconditioning all that was gathered there. If we want to access our yellow star self, if we want to access our true human self. And I think sometimes, particularly like transitioning into spiritual communities, there are these like cookie cutter archetypes of who you should be and how you should look and how you should behave within that too. So it's almost like, yeah, I'm really being myself, but actually, are you? Is that a true reflection of yourself? Or are there certain behaviours that you deny, or certain interests that you deny, or certain ways of being that you almost perform, or whatever it is to fit? And the medicine of Yellow Star is like, you find your true place that you fit when you're really in your authenticity. If you're not in your authenticity, you might find a community, but in order to exist within that community, you have to uphold all of the social expectations of that community, or you'll be ousted. So to discover who we are, we have to go on a journey, you know, we have to examine our family conditioning, we have to examine our childhood experiences, we have to explore our astrological selves, we have to look at the play that we were really drawn to when we were little. Because when we're little, right, we're starting this conditioning process, but also we're really close to our essence. So the things that used to light us up when we were little, they're really strong codes for us. And then we hit the block of the yellow star, then we hit the challenge of the yellow star, which is about being seen in that authenticity. Can we, because it's fucking vulnerable, it's vulnerable to be ourselves, because our self is not the same as anybody else. You know, we're as unique as our fingerprint. So then to expose that to the world, it's like the most vulnerable thing that we can do. And to sit in a space of vulnerability and to exist in a space of vulnerability is fucking scary. So we really meet like the fear of death within this invitation. And I'm not saying that you're going to meet the fear of death within the yellow star process, but I'm meaning like the deeper that we go into our authentic selves, because our authentic self is also our shadow, you know, and we've all got one, and we spend our lives trying to pretend that we don't and getting really triggered by other people's. And then if our shadow is exposed, we then get, you know, everything that kind of comes with that. But we all have this shadow. We all have this like aspect of ourselves that is unconscious, that behaves outside of love, because it's not an intentional thing. I guess for some people maybe it is an intentional thing, but that energy is something that is part of our yellow star, and it's not easy. It's not easy to be able to sit with the revelation of our own shadow, of I guess the manifestations of the parts of us that don't feel and haven't felt loved, and how that then impacts others, how that then impacts our own lives. So really in this process, not only are we reflecting upon and completing the themes that has been our 9-month evolutionary experience, we're also deepening into self. How much better do you know yourself? How much better do you know your magic? How much better do you know your shadow? And how closer is your internal self to your external self? Because sometimes we can have a really well cultivated inner world, but on the outside there's a lot in the way of showing up authentically in that. Or vice versa. We might not have explored that terrain very much at all, and then this self that we kind of step into the world from might then prove to be like, oh, maybe that isn't what I like, maybe that isn't who I am, as we begin to dig internally. So really, as these 13 days open, self-reflection as always, but giving ourselves the space. Give yourself space, give yourself a little bit of space, as much space as you can, to reflect on what has been, to check in with where you are, and to do something that exposes yourself. It can be a tiny thing, you know, it can be some way that you maybe show up on the internet, or it can be something that, a conversation that you've been really scared of having, or a job that you've been scared to apply for, or an aspect of something that you've wanted to clear, but you're like, oh, what will people think? Freak, flag, fly, be bold, be bright, be seen, all that jazz is really what this moment is inviting from us all. And then noticing it's not just like do the action and then collapse, because your nervous system's gone like, fuck. It's like do the action and then hold it. Oh, how does that feel? Oh, what's moving now? Oh, what do I need in that to integrate? And how can I build that muscle? I'm running another journey that is toward the end of the Red Dragon Wavespell, crossing into the White Wizard, 5 days, and this is about beginning the new spin. So I'll pop the link for that below. As always, it's going to be a potent one. but I just wanted to seed it now so that you've got that in your awareness, that in a few weeks' time, as we transition into the new, there's this container waiting for you if you want to join it. But yeah, just go tenderly, go gently, and you know, it's absolutely amazing that the eclipse happened on a white world bridge day, because the world bridge is all about like the death, the bridge between worlds, and to have this experience of like, you know, the life force that is projecting onto the planet being temporarily blocked and rebooted on that day of the white world bridge is like, could not be more magic. But that means that we're still experiencing that. So that happening as we try and integrate what has been, and also step into this vulnerable self-expression of our authentic creative selves. It's a lot. So be tender, be gentle, and like I said at the beginning of the video, get your diary. And I send you so much love.